Alfie, do you remember? Do you remember when I came last time? And you showed your face on them rocks? Do you remember? Rosemary beads. How do you know about them? It's on about rosemary beads, yeah. So you mentioned rosemary beads, yeah. It's rosemary beads, but they're tucked away. So, which is obviously something I'm wearing. Right, let's get into this one, the local legend of CleggHall. So this will be like 2 parts, so this will be the day video, there'll be a night video also that'll line up. So let's get into the folklore and the stories of CleggHall, with the Boggart of CleggHall specifically, and let me tell you my version of events and what I've discovered also at this location over the last 5 years. So I'm going to tell you everything I found out when it comes to my research, and there'll be some quite interesting facts when we discover really what the deal is here. So CleggHall, located near Rochdale in Greater Manchester, is a Grade 2 listed building, a 17th century manor house with rich history and enduring local legends throughout time. This also used to be a pub, by the way. I'll give you the dates soon. So the name Clegg refers to the local area, Great Clegg or Little Clegg, rather than the Clegg family. So the 17th century construction, there was a current stone hall, was completed around 1610 for Theophilus Ashton, 1584 to 1621, a prominent local landowner. In 1626, a survey described as a fair capital musage with garden, fish ponds, bams and orchids, highlighting its status as a substantial estate. So ownership passed through several families, including the Turners, who named by the nearby pub the Black Sloven after its beloved hunting mare from 1818 to 1869. The hall itself operated as a public house, serving canal workers and locals. But in the 1920s, CleggHall fell into disrepair, becoming a derelict ruin, which a lot of people remember it for. It was designated Grade 2 listed building in 1951, recognising its importance, its historical importance really, or its value. After years of neglect, CleggHall underwent a major restoration in the late 21st century, transforming into a private residential accommodation while preserving its historic character, which is what we're going to see in this video. Now let's get into the legend of CleggHall, or the CleggHall Boggart. So the hall is famous for its ghost story dating back to the medieval times. According to local law, a wicked uncle murdered his 2 young nephews. He threw them into the moat to seize the estate. Whilst the children's father returned from fighting abroad, the uncle tried to kill him too, but the ghost of the boy cried, "Father, beware," saving his life. The uncle fled and died in a fall, and the CleggHall Boggart is said to haunt the property, with reports of phantom voices, sightings, and in the Boggart chamber. So we're going to dig a bit more into that deeper story that I just told you, but I'll look at the modern significance. Today, CleggHall stands as a well-preserved example of Jacobean architecture, blending historical importance with local folklore. It remains a landmark near Rochdale, close to Hollingworth Lake, and obviously sits on the canal, which you'll see in this video. So the father of the 2 young boys that fought in the Napoleon era, which I think was the Napoleon War, was Sir Thomas Ashton, and obviously he had a brother which is known as the Wicked Uncle. But the folklore is to the real family that owned the hall when it was built, not Sir Thomas Ashton. But Sir Thomas Ashton was the rightful owner of CleggHall, and he left to fight the wars like I just mentioned at the time. So obviously, while Sir Thomas Ashton was fighting in the Napoleon War, some of the dates don't add up, because obviously the Napoleon War was 1850 or 1855, but it says in this document that this was in 1815. So there's a couple of questions that I have here, because the dates don't really add up. He could have fought in the Crusades, but it just says he fought the European War, so I'm assuming it was the Napoleon War. But obviously when Sir Thomas Ashton got back, he didn't understand why his own brother wanted to kill him. It was obviously because his older brother really wanted the estate, he wanted CleggHall really. But this actual story, for me, it just lacks substance. So for me, it's pure folklore, the tale that I've just told you, but it must have come from somewhere. So something's not adding up is what I'm saying when it comes to this story. But the wicked uncle, his name was John Ashton, which was obviously the younger brother, as I've just mentioned. It goes on to say that John was greedy and ambitious, and when his brother left to fight abroad, he saw his chance to take control of CleggHall himself. He also had nicknames as Black John or Mad John. So for me, that matches up with another case that I did where this particular individual could have been a highwayman also. The two obviously younger nephews were called Bertrand and Randolph. The ages of the boys were 14 and 13-year-old when their Uncle John threw them from the battlement from the moat. Now, what I'm trying to show you here is the blacksmith's forge, and obviously I'm going to speak more about that in a minute, how that's relevant, but I'll just finish my point here. So the actual legend comes from one of the murdered children, or the murdered children really, that are supposed to haunt this area. So it says here, for years locals avoided the hall, and after dark, and even those who lived there were afraid. Now, before I want to tell you on this story, I just want to show you the actual where the children were supposed to have been thrown off was just up there. You can see there's like an old door and stuff, and he's supposed to have thrown them off from that balcony. But anyway, as I was saying, those who lived there were afraid. So eventually a priest had to come in and was called in to exorcise the spirit. So instead of using force, he used his wits. And he told the Boggart that he could only be free if he found him another form, what was neither human nor animal. The Boggart agreed, thinking it was an easy answer, but the priest tricked him into choosing the form of a rooster. So obviously the priest said, "You shall remain a cock, crowing at dawn until the end of time," which meant the Boggart was trapped in this harmless form until obviously that would stop the haunting. To this day, people say if you listen closely near CleggHall at sunrise, you can still hear the ghostly cock crowing. So that's the priest's house there that I'm just pointing the camera at now. But in Christian tradition, the cock was a symbol of vigilance, faith, and triumph, and it was light over darkness. And obviously, this story came from St. Peter. So it's also said that this is the creature that could warn off evil spirits. So trapping the Boggart in this would make sense in folklore. Now, I'm not agreeing with this. This is where I've got a problem, really. So that's the original story of CleggHall, really, and obviously this is what I've discovered. I've discovered that there's a priest that's buried, a blacksmith that's buried, and there's three females that are buried in unmarked graves from previous investigations when I've come here. But when you look at some of the road, it obviously goes to show how old it actually is, because I think it goes back to Norman Anglo-Saxon times, going back to the 12th century, because I can tell off a part of that road. And obviously there's a haunted object that's been buried in the floor, which is a fact, really. I can definitely confirm that from the investigations that I've done. I'll show you a clip of this towards the end. So what I've got is a buried object in the floor, 5 unmarked graves. So then what is buried in the floor? Because it's not, I don't think it's going to be a rooster, to be honest, because it would have decayed by now. I was under the suspicion that it was a doll, but again, I think it would have decayed by now. So I'm left with some kind of ornament that would give it a soul, meaning the soul of a foot, not like a human soul, and it would give it a body. In my opinion, that's what's in the floor, which I'm going to show you quickly in this video. I'm also going to do a night investigation to see if I can recreate what I showed in my last video. This is a wall where I seen the white figure, if you get me. It was more or less on this wall here, as I showed in the last video. You can just scroll back and see in the last video, and you can have a look. There's obviously lights in that video that shouldn't be there because they've got no right to be there, to be honest. The only lights that should be are the ones in the far distance down there, which are approximately maybe about 4 miles away. So I figured the best time to come here is on a full moon, where it obviously lights up the lane, because that's what happened last time. It was a full moon. Arthur, it's me, Basil. Can you hear me? Arthur, do you remember? Do you remember when I came last time? And you showed your face on them rocks? Do you remember? Rosemary beads. How do you know about them? It's on about rosemary beads, yeah. So you mentioned rosemary beads, yeah. It's rosemary beads, but they're tucked away. So, which is obviously something I'm wearing. So he knows